Hey everybody, my name is Erin and today is the day that I start my Booktube channel. I'm really excited. I figured it would be best to start out with the newbie tag, but first I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I am 31 years old. I live in a very tiny one-bedroom apartment, which is why all my books are stacked up in such an array. I am a teacher. I teach second grade math and I love it. The first question is, why do you want to start a Booktube channel? I found Booktube about a year ago. I don't really remember what I clicked on to get me to my first few videos, but once I started watching it, I was hooked. I fell in love and I knew it was something that I would want to do. I did have a little bit of a struggle taking that first step because it's been a year, but I just loved the idea of a community of people talking about their favorite books. I loved watching the videos and writing down all these new books that I wanted to read, and it really helped me get back into reading. I used to read a lot during high school and college. I was one of those people that would sit down and get so engrossed in a book that I wouldn't do anything else. I would read a book in one sitting. I would read a series in a weekend. Started my career in teaching. I kind of got out of that habit. I think teaching can be a little bit full on and all consuming, and I didn't set myself up for good reading habits outside of college. About a year ago, I felt like I was finally in a good spot with teaching where I felt like I could really branch out and start to do more of those things that I had let fallen off to the wayside, and reading was one that I was really excited to get back into, especially because I never really stopped buying the books. I just didn't read as many of them throughout the year. So I think this will give me a great opportunity not only to keep up with my reading goals, but really start engaging in a community, and I'm so excited for that. Question 2 is, what are some fun and unique things you can bring to Booktube? I'm not entirely sure, to be honest. I'm going to focus on, especially at the beginning of this, just making content that I enjoy making and am proud of. Question 2, what are some of the unique things that you could bring to Booktube? I'm not really sure at the moment. I think for the start of this, I'm just going to focus on making content that I enjoy making and I'm proud of, and keep it fun. And then once I get more confident with it, I'd love to add more to it. I think everybody kind of comes into this with this big idea of what they want it to be. And of course I have that as well. I think I'd love to add some other nerdy aspects like board games and gaming and that kind of stuff, and not really sure how that would fit. And right now I just want to focus on the Booktube. The thing I can think of off the top of my head as far as uniqueness is that I am a teacher, and a lot of the books on my shelves are made for elementary school students. For example, one of the books I just finished reading was Cupids Don't Flip Hamburgers. Another good one, Junie B. Jones is Almost a Flower Girl. So I think that's probably not something you would see on everybody's TBR, and probably not something all of you will be interested in, but it's something I want to be able to support my students with, and I want to make sure I read all the books on my shelf, including those books. So that may be something different they may not see everyone. Question 3. What are some things you're most excited for about this channel? I think right off the bat, just an excuse to read more. I feel like I always have other things I could be doing, and so I've been setting myself a goal of about an hour a day of reading, and I think now if I have an excuse to top that, why not, you know? I also think readathons are something I'm really excited about. I'm hoping to do a readathon towards the end of this month just to kind of dip my toes in and see what that's all about. But I think the idea of challenges with reading and reading in teams and just big reading goals over a short period of time or a long period of time, it just sounds amazing. It sounds like something I'm going to enjoy so much. So I'm really excited to get into that. Hopefully someday I'll get to a point where I can work with other people, talk with other people, have book conversations, because that's what this is about, is being a community, and the more I can get involved in that community, the better. All right, so this next question at first I thought was going to be super easy, but it may be more difficult than I thought. Why do you love reading? I love reading. I love reading, but I don't know if I can put my finger on exactly what it is I love about reading. I think growing up in a very, very small Kansas town, I kind of needed that sense of adventure, and I got it through books. I think it gave me that chance to really explore when I didn't have that opportunity around me necessarily. It also gave me a bigger world view than I got from my hometown. Not that there was anything wrong with my hometown, it was just so incredibly small. The next question is, what book or series got you into reading? Again, I don't remember a specific time or a specific book where I was immediately just realized that reading was my thing. I think I always enjoyed it. I have a few books that I remember being meaningful at an early age. My grandma used to read The Tall Book of Make-Believe to me. It was one of my favorites. I'd asked her to read it to me over and over and over again. I also loved Shel Silverstein when I was like in first and second grade. I thought it was the best poetry book. I think those two books kind of stood out from an earlier age. The first series I read was actually Little House on the Prairie, and I think, again, being a small town Kansas girl, I could relate. And I think it gave me another sense of adventure. It made my own reality seem a little bit more exciting. Alright, the next question. What challenges about starting a booktube channel do you think will be the hardest to overcome? Honestly, posting, editing, making this first video. It took me a long time just to even sit down in front of a camera. I kept making excuses about how many books I was reading, the books I was reading, whether it was the right time, all of these kinds of things. And I finally just realized that if this is something I wanted to do, I had to just kind of sit down and make myself do it regardless of whether it was perfect or what I had imagined in my head. So if you're seeing this video, I have already overcome one of the hardest obstacles. I think another obstacle for me is I still just don't read as much as I see some other booktubers reading, and that kind of intimidates me a little bit. I see just giant TBRs, or I read, mass amounts of books this month, and then I look and I've read, my 4. And it's a little bit, like I said, a little bit intimidating, but I don't want that to hold me back. I want to still do this because I know it's going to be something I enjoy. The next question is, when did you start reading? Again, I don't ever remember a point of not reading. I remember my parents and grandparents reading to me a lot. It was a lot of holiday books. Like we do the 12 days of Christmas and have 12 books leading up to Christmas, but I think we also did the same thing for Halloween and Valentine's Day, and I'm not really sure why it was like 12 days of Valentine's Day. That's not a thing. But I remember mostly reading holiday themed books with them, and then eventually branching out. We always got Barnes& and Noble gift cards as gifts for Christmas and birthday. That was always a piece of it. And so one of the biggest things my family did, and still does, even though we're all adults, we always go to Barnes& and Noble shortly after Christmas and just do a shopping as a family with books. And so it was something they really made seem important and fun. So the next question, where do I read? I usually read in my bed. I haven't quite found the perfect sitting position. I'm always fidgeting around, but my bed seems to be most comfortable. I also try and take a book with me if I know I'm going to be waiting somewhere, like a doctor's office, dentist's office. I don't usually read at school because I'm teaching, which is full on for second grade students. I feel like that may be one of the spots where like I don't get as much reading as other people, is that I can't listen to an audiobook at work, or like I don't read at work because even my lunch breaks, there's usually just so much happening that it's not that long of a lunch break anyway. But yeah, in bed is my biggest reading spot. As far as what kind of books I read, definitely fantasy is my favorite. I'll be posting a video soon about some of my all-time favorites, which is a hard list to make. It won't be all-inclusive. But yeah, I think fantasy is definitely my genre. I've been trying to read more classics, slowly working through those. But I think I want to be a more well-rounded reader. It's one of my big goals. So I want to be able to talk about major books. I want to be able to talk about books in different genres. So I've been trying to get into nonfiction, biographies, graphic novels. So I've been slowly building out from just the fantasy genre, but it will always be my top. So I think that was our last question. I am really excited. I know I've said that 10,000 times. I think this is going to be a really great way to engage in the reading community in a different way. And I'm excited to see where that goes and how that builds and what's going to come of this. So I hope you enjoy your day. I hope you like this video, and I hope you stick around to see what else I have to offer.